I often think that the term challenging is very overused. It's very overused by companies, it's very overused by governments. It's very much a catch-all for a period when things have been difficult, demanding, and complex. But to be honest, it is hard to think of a more appropriate term for talking about the very tough backdrop of the last year. On all levels, geopolitically, the conflict and wars in Ukraine and the Middle East have seen not only huge human suffering, but have had significant economic consequences, which have infiltrated and had widespread global impact. Inflationary pressures have hit economies and growth prospects across the world, and the cost of basic necessities of living, be it food or energy, have risen. And at the same time, they've become less available and less accessible to the very poorest across the world, which has increased inequality. We've seen extremes of climate activity over the past year. 2023 is now set to overtake 2020 as the hottest year on record. And when Seb Below gets up later, I would ask you to look at Seb's tie, which has stripes which I believe represent the climate in London and gets increasingly pinker as it goes down. Point of interest. But floods and fires have destroyed whole habitats and communities. And socially, whereas in some parts of society we have seen increased acceptance and awareness of differences and diversity, we've also seen a backlash which has resulted in tolerance and intolerance and hatred. So I think that the backdrop of the last year has affected people in very direct and very personal ways. And one consequence of this is that for people, for businesses, and for governments, it's a period when people question short-term priorities. And this is an example of this, I believe, is the inconsistency that we have seen in sustainability policies and timetables relating to net zero carbon targets. But I'll leave that for Ashok to talk about later. Against this backdrop, at WHEB, we continue to have complete conviction in the future for impact investing. Let's remind ourselves, impact investing is about finding alignment between financial returns and impact returns. It means finding and investing in companies that are good investments because they make or do or sell amazing things that have a positive impact. We believe that the asset management industry has a critical role to play in impact investing. If we're going to address these huge challenges and crises, be it in climate change or inequality, we do need to access the scale and the scope of the listed equity markets. A very positive move this year has been the recognition by regulators that this is the case. There's a lack of clarity around the whole industry of ESG, sustainability, and impact, and it's often very difficult to differentiate between them. They're not the same. ESG screening, for example, is very different to an impact approach where we intentionally invest for positive outcome. So we welcome the stepping in of the regulators, and we do look forward to the hopefully very imminent introduction of the sustainable disclosure regime from the FCA, which they have recently indicated will be available before the end of the year. Fingers crossed. So why WHEB? Impact investing is the sole, undiluted focus of what we do. And we bring to it an enormous amount of experience. The founders of WHEB were dedicated to this asset class significantly before it was ever an attractive and more mainstream way of investing. There is a depth of knowledge and expertise about impact, which, for example, you can see expressed in our impact engine, which is the way that we analyse and evaluate the intensity of positive impact of our investments. And we aim to be as transparent as possible. Why do we do this? Firstly, because we think impact investing does need a robust and transparent measurement to drive change and to build trust. And we want our investors to understand exactly what we do and how we do it, so they can make informed decisions about whether we're the right people to manage your money. On the website, you will see an enormous amount of information, from our white paper to our blogs, explaining exactly our process and our thoughts. And this communication is incredibly important to us. Secondly, we want impact investing to be accessible, not just to be something which pension funds and larger institutions can do. And also on the WHEB website, you will see sections which are really intended for investors to break down the acronyms, for example, to make it plainer to people as to how they can also invest their money in a way which they feel drives positive change. And thirdly, we want to invest with integrity. We constantly challenge and question ourselves and the companies in which we invest. And we bring in experts from the outside to also constantly challenge us, and we make the results of this very visible to our investors. Over the past year, we've continued to add to our investment team, a good-looking bunch, not just with new people, but with people from colleagues from inside WHEB. You may have recognized from previous conferences Rachel and Katie, who've now joined the team. They are long-standing members with inside WHEB as a company. And we really want to invest for the long term and to continue building on the expertise that we have within the firm. Also, over this year, we received a series of nominations and awards recognizing the role that WHEB plays within this industry. Moving on to the day ahead, in advance of the break, we have two speakers. We have our keynote speaker, the Right Honourable Sir Alok Sharma, followed by Kingsmill Bond from Rocky Mountain Institute. In the afternoon, we have a conversation with one of our portfolio companies, and then an investment review and outlook from members of our investment team. After that, some of the WHEB team will be on stage for you to have a Q&A session with them, followed by lunch. In addition, we're delighted to welcome stands and exhibits from some brilliant organizations that we partner with. They include Future Fit Foundation, City Hive, B Corp and B Lab, Business Declares, The Big Exchange, and Shareholders for Change. And I would encourage you in the break and over lunch to go and find these companies and talk to them and find out about the work that they do.